So here we are, right? I'll be home for Christmas, and I was thinking about like how do you do a sermon from home? I missed most of that early quarantine when Pastor Myra was doing this from home. This is really my first at-home sermon with you, and as I thought about it, since it's at home and it's kind of home for Christmas, I thought it would just be, well, at least more comfortable for me if these were more like, here we are sitting in my living room and we're just having a conversation about what's going on in our lives and what's going on in the world and how we understand our faith in the midst of, well, this moment. Yeah, you just heard Bridget and Erica sing that John Lennon song, So This Is Christmas. So this is Christmas. I kind of put a question mark at the end of that this year. So this is Christmas? This is Christmas? And I wonder when John Lennon first wrote that song in 1971, if he wasn't asking kind of the same question. Think of what was happening when he wrote that song. 1971. The height of the Vietnam War. Protests going on across the country, major campuses being kind of overtaken by protesters and by demonstrations. There were racial uprisings in the major metropolitan areas. The Detroit uprising was just 4 years in the back memory. The assassinations of King and Kennedy still fresh on people's minds. And so John Lennon asks the question, so this is Christmas? How do you celebrate Christmas when it feels like the world's falling apart around you, right? And here we are. And like I said earlier, we thought we'd be in a different place by now. I remember in the early days of quarantine, we really thought this wouldn't go past the end of May. And here we are at Christmas, and we know that we've got more to go. So how do we do Christmas here in the midst of this? And I'll be honest with you, we as a family aren't quite sure yet. We're not quite there yet. It just doesn't feel right yet. I've been watching some of you put up your wonderful pictures of your Christmas decorations, and I'm so envious. Sandy Davis, Susan Shepard, it's clear you guys are sisters, man. You could be on like Martha Stewart. Your homes look like they're ready. I want to tell you, the extent of the Nelson's Christmas decorations is right here, right now, right? We got the Charlie Brown Christmas tree. That's all we got right now. That's all we've got up. Everything is still in its boxes down in the basement. We plan to bring it out this weekend, but it just doesn't feel right yet. It just doesn't feel like this is Christmas. Maybe you're feeling that way too, here in this first week of December, because so many of the things that kind of get me into the Christmas spirit revolve around being able to be together at church. You know, the incredible music, the incredible worship services, and then just kind of being out and about in the community. It's a busy time of the year usually, with a lot of running to stores and doing your shopping, and the stores are all decorated, and the downtowns have their lights up, and it's just a kind of magical time. And all that driving around, you've got the Christmas songs playing in the car, and it just feels like Christmas. And it all kind of culminates in the Christmas Eve moment, right? Standing in the sanctuary, candles in our hands, silent night on our lips, and Christ in our heart. That's what feels like Christmas for me. So what do you do? Where do you go when it's Christmas, but it doesn't feel like Christmas? Where do you go and what do you do? What's interesting that the calendar of scriptures we call the lectionary takes us this week to the Gospel of Mark for Christmas. You know what's weird about having to go to the Gospel of Mark for Christmas? Is that there's no Christmas in the Gospel of Mark. None. Take it out and look. It has no stories of the birth of Jesus. No angels, no shepherds, no wise men, no donkeys, no stable, no manger. Has none of those familiar stories in the Gospel of Mark at all. In fact, if Mark was the only story of Jesus we had, we wouldn't have the kind of Christmas that we've come to know. It wouldn't feel like the Christmases we've come to expect. So, and frankly, every year when Mark comes up, I'm like, what the heck am I supposed to do with Mark? Where's the baby Jesus? How come there's Christmas? How can we have Christmas without the baby Jesus? And it's only at Christmas do we call him the baby Jesus, right? I have an extra syllable in there at Christmas time, but Mark doesn't have that. Here's what Mark has. This is how Mark starts the story of Christ's coming, of Jesus coming into our midst. And imagine if this is the only story we had, and how that might change what Christmas means for us. And this year, where it doesn't feel like Christmas, maybe a story that doesn't feel like Christmas, but really is the essence of what it means for Christ's coming, makes a lot more sense. Listen to what Mark begins his story with. In the beginning of the good news of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, as it was written in the prophet Isaiah, "See, I'm sending my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way, the voice of the one crying out in the wilderness, prepare the way for the Lord, make his path straight." John the Baptizer appeared in the wilderness, proclaiming a baptism of repentance for the forgiveness of sins. And people from the whole Judean countryside and all the people of Jerusalem were going out to him. And they were baptized in the river Jordan, confessing the change of their hearts. Where's the baby? Where's the angels? Where's the wise men? Where's the gold? Where's the frankincense? Where's the myrrh? Where's Mary? Where's Joseph? We don't get any of it. All we get is John the Baptist. I've yet to find the nativity set that has a John the Baptist in it. All you get is John the Baptist saying, prepare the way, because God is coming. Did you see where Mark said that the Christmas story begins? It doesn't begin in Bethlehem. It doesn't begin in a manger. It doesn't begin in a stable. Mark says it begins in the wilderness. That's where Mark says we'll find the Christ. That's where Mark says we'll find the coming of God. And maybe this year, Mark says in the wilderness is where you'll discover Christmas. The wilderness. Have any of you ever been in the wilderness? In a place that's wild or untamed, untouched, undeveloped? Wildernesses can be pretty scary places. In fact, they can be dangerous. My brother, Doug, when he was 6 or 7, got lost in the wilderness, in the woods, behind my grandparents' trailer. And when I mean lost, he got lost. He went for a walk with our dog out on the trails. There was light snow on the ground, and somewhere in the midst of that, he got off the trail. And by the time people back home realized he was gone, they couldn't find him. He was lost in the woods for almost an entire day as my aunts and uncles and my grandfather and my mom and my dad frantically began to search those woods looking for him. He would tell you that in the wilderness of those woods, he got turned around, he couldn't find his way, he was lost. And my family will tell you it was one of the scariest days of our life in the wilderness, when you feel lost and you don't know where you're going and you're not sure you're going to get back home. Mark says Christmas comes there, in the place you feel lost, in the place you feel disoriented, in the place you're not sure anyone's going to find you, in the place you're not sure you'll ever find your way back home. So this is Christmas. And wildernesses aren't just, well, they aren't just like places, are they? They're not just physical, geographical locations. Wildernesses are states of being. The wilderness is a psychological and spiritual place too. And I bet many of you have been through those. Maybe for some of you, this season feels like the wilderness. And I'm glad Mark reminded me that wilderness, this alone place, this isolated place, this desolate place, this untamed, uncertain place, this place that maybe you feel lost in the midst of, is where we meet God. Because it helped me remember that I at least experienced Christmas one other time in the wilderness. It was the very first Christmas after my mom died. My mom died young and tragically and suddenly. Leukemia, diagnosis 2.5 weeks from diagnosis to death. And it left my dad, my brother, Bridget, and I with this big gaping hole in our family. She died in June, and then suddenly here we were, and it was Christmas. And it didn't feel like Christmas. We all got together and we were missing her. And her absence was just present. But you know what? We did our best to make it Christmas. We did our best to get through it together. And we met God in some new ways. One of the things you need to know about my mom is she Christmas shopped all year long. If she found something on sale that she thought you might like, didn't matter what time of the year it was, she bought it and she put it away. But the problem was she didn't tell my dad or anybody where any of these presents were. And it wasn't the Christmas that she died, but it was the next one. My dad, I don't know, must have been cleaning out the attic or in some closet or something, and he found this pair of gym shorts, this green Nike gym shorts that she probably bought at Shopko in northern Wisconsin on sale, because they were big shorts, and I'm a big guy, and if she found something like that, she was going to get them. And I got a Christmas present from my mom a year after she was gone. And it reminded me that, that God was in the midst of that wilderness with us. That somehow that was a message that we were okay and that we were going to be okay. I mean, nothing says Merry Christmas like a pair of green Nike gym shorts. And you know what? I wore those gym shorts for I wore them till they wore out. Bridget finally had to throw them away. That was my Christmas in the wilderness. And maybe that's the good news that Mark has to tell us, is that that's exactly where Christ comes. Because that's exactly where we need Christ to come. When we're lost. When we're feeling alone. When we're afraid or we're confused. When we're not sure we're ever going to find our way back home. But that's where Christmas begins. And that's the good news. Because if you're feeling that way, then Christmas is for you this year. And Christ is coming for you this year. And that Christ is coming for us this year while we stay at home. So what do you do? How do you get through that wilderness Christmas? How do you do Christmas when it doesn't feel like it? Well, all I can tell you is you gotta go down to your basement and you gotta get the boxes and you gotta get Christmas out of the box. Even when it doesn't feel like it, you gotta take it out of the box. A year or two after my mom died, my dad gave me this for Christmas. It's a nativity set of ceramic figurines that my mom painted. Each of them remind me, here's the king. He lost his fingers, but we still makes the journey with us. I don't know what it was that year that she made those. It was the mid-70s, and painting ceramics was the thing to do. And I just tipped over the shepherd boy. You can tell this is live here, right? But you start to take... There's Jesus inside of Joseph. It's not the way it was supposed to work, but, you got to start taking Christmas out of the box. You got to start putting it out and on display. Because in the midst of that mess is Jesus. It is Christ in the midst of the mess. So yeah, we're going to get our boxes out this weekend. And we're going to decorate our tree. And we're going to start to make it feel like it's Christmas. But it's really not just about the decorations coming out of the box. It's about everything that makes us people of faith Making sure that we don't have that stored away in the box either. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about the 2 ways I'm asking you to help make this Christmas feel like Christmas for the people of our congregation and the people of our community. There's 2 ways I really want you to help me make Christmas real in the midst of the wilderness. One, I want to make sure that every single person in our church gets a Christmas card from another member of the church. Bridget's helping me. She always helps me. We've got stacks of addresses and labels in groups of 10. We have about 350 addresses that we send out to members of our church. So I need 30 to 35 people who would take a list of 10 and just put a Christmas card on it and say, this is from your church. This is from me. I love you. And it's okay if you don't know the person. In fact, if you don't know them, introduce yourself to them. Make a new friend with them. Let them know that God is with them in the midst of the wilderness. And the second one is I need you to help me collect as many hats, gloves, and hand warmers as we can. I'll be home for Christmas. I can't help but think of those that call the streets our home. Their home. I called my friend Amy Brown down at the Noah Project, and I'm like, Amy, what do we do for our brothers and sisters experiencing homelessness when they don't have places that they can go in? So Jeff, we got to do everything we can to keep people warm. Everything we can. Hats, gloves, and hand warmers. Bring some of those to the church, please, so that we can help those for whom the wilderness is literally the streets of our cities and communities. Let's help them navigate this wilderness season too. Well, thanks for giving me a reason to get Christmas out of the box. Thanks for getting together with me here in the living room. I'll admit that this time together here, even though we aren't really together, has helped me find my way into this unique Christmas season. So this is Christmas. Making sure every member of our church gets a Christmas card. That's Christmas. Making sure the hungry and homeless of our community are clothed in warmth. That's Christmas. And Christmas is knowing that God is with us, that we are with each other in the midst of this wilderness journey to get to the place where Christ becomes real in our midst again. Thanks for getting together with me this morning. Would you just take a minute and pray with me? Thanks for your presence here with us, Lord. Because I want it to feel like Christmas, and it just doesn't. And so thank you for a story that reminds me that at least in one of your Gospels, it always felt different. That God met us in the wilderness, in the strangeness, in the places we felt lost and alone. Meet us there again, God. And bring us through these days until the day we can all gather together again. We ask all this humbly in your name. Amen.